Look, if I ever do something wrong 24 times, I really want Sue L. Robinson to be my judge. Her independent hearing of the Deshaun Watson case has brought down the swift hammer of justice with a 6-game 6 games? That can't be right. 6 games for 24 lawsuits accusing Deshaun Watson of sexual assault and sexual misconduct. Now, Watson initially reached settlements in 20 of those 24 lawsuits. 3 more were settled just before this punishment was announced, meaning there's just one ongoing or unresolved lawsuit. That's right, Deshaun Watson got off easy. No, can't say that. No, cannot. Jesus, no. Okay, 6 games. 6 games for now for Watson. I will tell you why that number could change within the next week on today's edition of Sports Court. All right, before we get to Watson, I normally don't cover basketball here, but the passing of Bill Russell is pretty significant. The 6'10" Celtics great won 11 titles and 13 NBA seasons as a player and then as a player coach. Russell endured staggering amounts of racism in a time when NBA teams were only allowed to have 4 black players on their roster at any given time. Bill Russell remains one of the most important athletes in American history, alongside Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth, Wayne Gretzky, anyone you can think of. He was a pioneer in basketball and changed the NBA for the better. So rest in peace, Bill Russell. Deshaun Watson. A literal slap on the wrist may have been a more severe punishment for Deshaun, especially if it were his throwing hand, than the one he got. Here's your Deshaun Watson cliff notes, okay? Deshaun Watson was facing 24 lawsuits accusing him of various forms of sexual assault and sexual misconduct during massage sessions he booked on his own while a member of the Texans. Over the course of a year or so, he booked massages with roughly 66 different women. 2 grand juries did decline to indict Watson on criminal charges, at which point the Browns won a bidding war for his services as QB with a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, even though the 24 lawsuits had not been resolved. The NFL then conducted their own investigation and presented their findings to a third party, former federal judge Sue L. Robinson. It was her job to look at the case and recommend a punishment. She has recommended a 6-game suspension, and it should be noted the NFL only presented 5 of the 24 cases from the lawsuits to Sue. Also in that time, the Houston Texans were added to the lawsuits, and they settled every single lawsuit with the accuser, totaling 30 women. Now, Roger Goodell, aka the NFL, can still appeal this initial decision within 3 days, at which point Roger Goodell will present arguments to Roger Goodell, and he can overrule the 6-game recommended suspension with whatever he wants. Seriously, that's how this whole process works. Roger Goodell, or someone he appoints, hears the appeals. I don't think he will file an appeal for himself to hear unless the 31 owners who don't own the Browns think this punishment isn't sufficient. And based on all of the illegal shit they probably do all the time, I'm guessing they think this punishment's acceptable. Now, I believe Roger Goodell will only increase the suspension of Deshaun Watson if he and the other owners believe they are losing the battle in the court of public opinion. If football fans continue to show disgust and outrage over the decision, Goodell may land on the year-long suspension they initially recommended. They wanted an indefinite suspension, but I think that was because none of the cases had been settled at the time. Honestly, I think a better way to do this would be for Roger Goodell to implement some sort of Price is Right process to determine what the right suspension is. You know, involve the audience.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The Price is Right. Rich Fields, who's next?
Roger Goodell, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Punishment is Right. And then Roger Goodell could turn to the crowd for their input so they could guide him in his punishment process. I'm thinking two, four, higher than 4 games, 8 games, higher, 10 games, higher, 20 games. Drew, I'm going with 20, final bid, 20 games.
Everybody overbid.
You're gonna have to try again, Roger.
5. Kevin.
There is one person in the NFL who thinks this punishment is about right. No, okay, 2, maybe 2. There is also a certain sect of fans who think this punishment is fair. There's also a group of fans who really want Deshaun Watson punished severely, but no, they can't really say anything about this 6-game suspension as it stands. Yeah, them. But the reaction from people around the league has varied. After the news broke, Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray reached out to Watson to congratulate him and say, "Bruh, at least they didn't try and make you do 4 hours of homework every week. I'd kill to get to play video games for the first 6 games of the season. Again, congratulations, man." Cowboys owner Jerry Jones was asked if he felt the Deshaun Watson suspension was adequate. Jones responded with, "I'm not putting that sniveling son of a bitch Jimmy Johnson in the Cowboys Ring of Fame." And based on its past punishments, the NFL, in its current iteration, believes possible sexual misconduct is a less severe issue than deflating balls. And even though they sound similar, they are very different things. Tom Brady was suspended 4 games for Deflategate, a scandal in which he was accused of asking his team trainers to leak some air out of game footballs. 4 games is less than 6 games, I know, but on a per accusation basis, Brady actually received a harsher punishment. Brady was accused of deflating 11 of 12 footballs, a number that pales in comparison to Watson's 24 accusations of sexual misconduct. Brady was suspended 0.36 games per deflated football, and Watson was suspended 0.25 games per accusation of sexual misconduct. Now let's take a quick look at the NFL's standard for punishment. Calvin Ridley, suspended 17 games for betting. Vontaze Burfict, 12 games for targeting. DeAndre Hopkins, 6 games, PEDs. Martavis Bryant, indefinitely. Weed. Josh Gordon, 25 plus games. Weed. Darren Waller, 16 games, substance abuse. Myles Garrett, 6 games for trying to de-brain Mason Rudolph. So they're all over the fucking place, we know that. I think most people are pretty upset that Calvin Ridley was suspended for an entire season for placing a sports bet on an NFL game he was not involved in. The difference, though, between what Calvin Ridley did and what Deshaun Watson is accused of is that Ridley never tried to ejaculate on his sports betting app. Also, Calvin Ridley didn't place just one bet, it was a parlay. Multi bets. Part of Deshaun Watson's punishment, though, requires that he only get massages from team staff or team-approved masseuses. Basically, Sue Robinson is admitting that Watson did not know how to behave during a massage, and for that, only needs a 6-game suspension. She literally wrote this in her conclusion, and this is not a joke. These are her words. "Mr. Watson's pattern of conduct is more egregious than any before reviewed by the NFL." Those are her words. Here's my take. Sue's not a good judge. Most egregious ever, and stipulating he can't get massages on his own, and yet it's just a 6-game suspension. Sue did note in her findings that Deshaun Watson was a first-time offender for these 24 times. It was just his first time. Also, she contradicts herself in her own findings. She called Watson's allegations, quote, non-violent sexual conduct, and she also wrote, "The NFL met its burden to prove Watson violated the personal conduct policy in various ways, including that he engaged in sexual assault." How can he engage in sexual assault and only be accused of non-violent sexual conduct? Did she not proofread her own work? Because that doesn't make any sense, which is on par for NFL punishments. Personally, I would have taken it a step further. I would have stipulated that Watson can only get massages from one of those sharper image massage chairs for the rest of his career. Like the one George Costanza was supposed to buy for Joe Mayo.
Hey, George, did you get Joe Mayo that chair yet?
Not yet. Oh, God.
Oh my God, is George Costanza actually Deshaun Watson?
I think it moved.
Everyone right now is focused on the duration of the suspension. And I think we need to focus on making the punishment fit the crime. So here are more punishments the NFL should have given in addition to the suspension. 1. When getting a massage, Deshaun Watson has to stare at this photo of the late Al Davis the entire time. 2. The Cleveland Browns should be forced to start Josh Rosen for all games Watson is suspended. That's the only way Cleveland will learn their lesson. In fact, any team that does something fucked up, you get Josh Rosen for a year. 3. When Watson gets back, he has to live in Cleveland. Oh, wait. Addendum. Watson can only leave Cleveland for away games for the duration of the rest of his NFL career. 4. When Watson gets back, the Browns have to let Bill O'Brien make all personnel and trade decisions for the team. 5. It's a full season suspension, but Watson has to come back week 13 to play against the Texans. And if he loses that game, the amount of points the Browns lose by is the amount of additional games Watson has to serve as a suspension. And finally, Watson gets to play all season long, but the referees will never throw the flag for roughing the passer when he's quarterback. As it stands right now, Deshaun Watson's debut with the Browns will be Week 7 at the Baltimore Ravens game, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Going 24 consecutive games without seeing the field and having to pick up where you left off against the Ravens defense feels like quite the daunting task for Deshaun Watson. Now, Watson will still get paid, so for everyone worrying about him going into debt because of this suspension, rest easy. His $44.96 million signing bonus has already been paid. He only stands to lose roughly $350,000 with this 6-game suspension because the Browns, in one of the most desperate maneuvers in sports history, protected $229 million of his $230 million guaranteed salary, all because they wished Baker Mayfield would act like an adult, and Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad didn't like Baker Mayfield. But the ball is now in the NFL's court, okay? How Sue Robinson can say she thinks the NFL proved Watson committed sexual assault, but only deserves a 6-game suspension is something I will never understand. But the NFL can at least appear to give a shit about women if they increase this punishment to something more significant, including added games and a significant fine, so that Watson is literally not just rewarded for his behavior. Because at this point, that's the case. The only thing that's happened for Deshaun Watson is he's gotten a year vacation and he's gotten the most money, guaranteed money in NFL history. And now another 6-game vacation. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please stick around as Deshaun Watson watch never seems to fucking stop. Also, if you want a more fun NFL video, check out my recap of the 2016 season. It's on the screen right now, and it's pretty good. Okay, bye.